So, welcome, people. Welcome to the last session for today. This is the third session, and our speaker is already here. Apologies again for what has happened today to our background and the technical crew. We will figure that out. And while we before we bring in our speaker, we're going to be reading her profile in a moment. It can't scroll, it won't be on the screen that the way we usually do it because of the issues we have background. Sorry about that. So let us take the brief of the speaker of today and then bring her in. Our next speaker is Mary Beth Chima. Mary Beth Chima is an educator, an advocate of premium parenting, and the founder of the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy and community. Mary Beth partners with her teenage son to run a peer accountability program for children known as Mastermind Program. She's the convener of the Kids and High Vision Board Party, aimed at having parents create or revisit their parenting plan with their children at the end of every year. Her books, Bedtime Stories for Champions and Mentor Parents, were published to help parents support the children effectively. She's a mom of two amazing children. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome our next speaker in the person of Mary Beth Chima. Mary Beth.
Yay!
Thank you,
Good
Steve, for
afternoon,
being here.
Vivian. Good evening, Nick. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Welcome. We are so glad to have you. We are
Thank
so
you.
glad to have you. I know your tight schedule, but we have no option than to bring you to do this for us. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
Thank you for accepting to do this. We are grateful. Thank you so much. So we'll be leaving the floor for you so
All
you can go
right.
ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. I do not take it for granted. Thank you, Coach Vivian, for all that you're doing. I mean, there is no time that the whole talk about proactivity, especially in parenting, is important as it is right now. So you can imagine how excited I am to be here and to be a part of this movement and to lend my voice to the whole movement of proactivity when it comes to parenting. All right, so thank you very much again for having me here. It's been I was trying to catch some of the sessions yesterday because I've been busy. I have a lot of courses and stuff, this period. So I was trying to like catch up some of the sessions that I have missed, and I have seen that. I mean, I can see that it's been back to back to back to back value going on here in the last few days. So thank you very much. So I won't be saying anything that is too far from what all the speakers so far have been saying. So I'm going to just come here and ride on all the background and all that they have already laid out there. All right, so I'm going to be talking about how you can be proactive when it comes to the purpose of your child's purpose. All right, so really, parenting is beautiful. I'm sure we all know this, right? Parenting is one of the most beautiful things. I mean, being able, to take that place, to be a parent to a child and to parent that child, whether it's your biological child or not, is one of the most beautiful things that can happen to you as a human being. And I believe it's something that none of us should take for granted. I mean, it's huge. It's huge that you were chosen and you were called to be a co-creator with God, because basically this is what it is. I mean, it begins from the point where you know that you are going to be a contributor, to the birthing and the being of another human being. It's huge. I don't know about you, but for me, I think it's a very huge thing. And then, apart from that, knowing that you're going to contribute to the life of a whole person, and you're going to contribute into what, impact that person is going to be to the society at large, what impact that person is going to have on the society at large. To think that you are a contributor, to that whole, idea of, who this person is going to be to the society. Because whether we like it or not, right, the adults that our children become, the adults that our children become are actually the gift that we, gift to the society, because we are the ones who raised them from the point where they knew nothing, from the point where it was tabula rasa. They connected to you, right? They plugged to you and they learned from you and the environment that you were able to create for them. And based on these, the values, that environment, the experiences that you create for this child, you're able to raise the child to become a meaningful, to add meaningfully to the society. It's huge. So just knowing that I am a part of these two huge things that will happen in the life of my child is, for me, is a very, very big thing. And it's something that I do not take for granted. And I hope that you also do not take for granted. Right. So it was Coach Dozie and I that were in a session once. And in that session, he said something really profound. He said that parenting is, it has two parts basically. As a parent, there are two parts to parenting. One of it is your relationship with your child. So one part of parenting is relational. The other part of parenting is quote and unquote official. All right. The other role that you play in the life of your child, quote and unquote, is official. Right. Official, in that you understand that it is tenor based, right? So you know that for the next 18 years of the life of this individual, that you have been blessed to parent, whether you're a biological parent or not, right? To know that the next 18 years of this person's life is quote and unquote dependent on the experiences, the environment, the values, the virtues that you instill in the person. To know that you can impact this human being, to know that you can influence this human being for the next 18 years of their lives, right? To know that this is the time that you have, and to make up your mind to make the best of this time. So until you bring yourself to that point where you recognize that parenting has got these two different parts. The relational part is your connection, the love, the connection, the understanding, and all of that, that goes on between you and your child. And that part is going to be there forever, right? Whether they are 50, you will still be their parents. You will still have a connection. You will still have, the bond, the connection, the love, the trust that you have been able to build, right? If you have been able to build that, early in their life, or you've been able to build that, right, to a good extent, then you will have that for the rest of their, for the rest of their lives. You're going to be their parents and you can have that part of their life. But you see the official parts by the time they are 18, whether you like it or not, by the time your child is 18, that official part, quote and unquote, where you're able to influence their decisions, they depend on you, and you're able to teach skills and teach virtues and teach values and all of that. That tenure expires. Okay, everything after 18 thereabout, sorry, everything after 18 or thereabout is just going to be you trying to, repair, okay, what you have not been able to do. Now the question is, what are you going to do in those 18 years, right? What are you going to do in those 18 years? Your ability to recognize that there is the relational part and there is the official part of your parenting is what will set you apart as a parent, is what distinguishes between the ideal parent and the intentional or purposeful parent. And I say today that that is what will determine how proactive you are. as a parent, okay, as a proactive parent. Let's even look, at I tried when I was preparing this lesson, this session, I tried to look at what, being proactive would mean to me as a parent. What would I be thinking of? What would I do? I think of, I think I wrote a few of it here, right? What would I be thinking of when I'm thinking of who a proactive parent is? Okay, and I said a proactive parent is that parent that works with the end in mind. Okay, a proactive parent understands and has the end in mind while he is raising their child. I said a proactive parent is the parent that understands that their child is an individual and has a life outside of them. Outside the parents. Okay, so your ability to recognize that your child is an individual, and as an individual, this child has a life outside of you, makes you a proactive parent. Okay, I said that, okay, you're a proactive parent is the parent that allows the child to, okay, that builds a secure attachment with their child, right? That allows the child to have a secure attachment such that the child knows that they can go and they can come. The child understands that they have a process to go through in life, and the parent allows the child to go through that process. Okay, the parent allows the child to go through that process and recognizes when the child needs them, and the parent is able to teach the child to also recognize when they need help, and to know that they can run back to them as parents. Okay, a proactive parent also understands the season in their child's life. A proactive parent understands the season in their child's life, and they pay attention to those seasons. And then lastly, a proactive parent understands and distinguishes between the relational part of their relationship with their child, and then that there is the official time a child part of their relationship that is tenor based. So when you are able to recognize this and you're able to put yourself in this place, we say you are being a proactive parent. This is me thinking. For me to be a proactive parent, what would it be? So when you're able to bring yourself to that space, we say you are being a proactive parent. Now, a proactive parent understands one more thing. A proactive parent understands that it is your responsibility to help create a path for their child to recognize, to understand, and then to work in their purpose. Right? The Bible says that the it says the what did it how did it put it now? It says that the is it the heart of it no it says how did he put it? Let me see. How did he put it? It says that the intentions or the purpose of a person's heart is like deep waters, right? That only those with insight can draw it out. So it is the same thing. Sorry, my daughter is trying to drop a note for me. Yes, Ada, yes. All right. So that the purpose, sorry about that. All right. So the purpose of a person's heart is like deep waters, right? That only a person with insight can draw it out. It is the same thing with your child's purpose. All right. So your child's purpose, the purpose of your child's life, all right, is like deep waters. Only only a parent with deep insights can draw it out. So you need to be proactive as a parent for you to have that deep insight that allows you to draw out the purpose of your child. You have to be a proactive parent to have that insight that helps you recognize what your child's purpose is, or not even recognize your child's purpose, recognize what you need to do, or how you need to support your child in order for your child to work towards finding their purpose. Bearing in mind that your child's purpose is bigger than you, and that you do not determine your child's purpose. All right? Now, I work with parents, and in my work, I didn't want the fan, and then all of a sudden, I am sweating. So I think I would need to have them, turn it on for me. All right, so let's continue. All right, so as a parent, right? So I was talking about, yeah. So as a parent, you would have to be discerning. You will have to seek that insight that you need to help your child draw out their purpose. And this is being proactive. This is being proactive. Remember, I said part of being, I mean, one of the characteristics of being proactive is that you work with the end in mind. Where am I going to? What kind of child am I raising? Where am I raising my child? What do I need to do? What do I need to put in place to raise a child that can walk in their purpose? If you can sit down and ask yourself these questions, you are being proactive as a parent. All right. Now, in the academy, I run an academy, the Parenting Through Mentorship Academy. And in the academy, we work with parents, right? When I work with the parents that I work with, I call those parents mentor parents because I am a mentor parent, all right? And it's huge. We're going to come back to the concept of mentor parents even in this conversation, all right? So usually I say to the parents, for you to raise a child, right, that will live that purpose. For you to be proactive as a parent, you must go on, or your goal must be to raise a child that is wholesome. Your goal must be to raise a child that can live in their full potential. Your goal should be to raise a child that can live the purpose that God has created them for. And in doing this, what we have done over the years is we have tried to create a framework that will allow parents look at the different aspects of their child's life during the dependency phase of their life, which is that period of 0 to 18 years. Remember, that official period. And so we train the parents to raise their children along 8 lines. Okay? We train parents to raise their children. I'm going to list those 8 parts, okay, that we train parents to raise their children along. One of them is kingdom life. I mean, the whole thing about their beliefs, their faith. What's your faith? What's your child's belief? What's your faith? What's your belief? It's your faith, your belief, your ideology. That's what you're going to pass on to your child eventually. All right? Then we teach them to also raise their children to know how to manage themselves. So self-management is very important. We also raise them, and we also teach them to raise their children to be people who can manage their home, manage whatever environment you find yourself in. You should be able to thrive. You should be able to thrive in that environment. So you should be able to manage the environment where you find yourself at all times and make your home conducive for you. It is a skill, okay? We also teach these parents that it is important, right, that you raise children who are financially sound. Your children must have financial education to raise them to recognize their talents and their interests and be able to hone those talents and interests and live, life using those talents and interests to fulfill their purpose or to impact the world. We also raise them to raise children who are cerebral, children who can be academically sound, cognitively sound. All right. We also teach them to raise their children along lifelong learning. The children should be lifelong learners. Have I given you 8? So these are the 8 lines that we help our parents that we work with to walk along. Of course, these are the 8 lines along which I also parent my children. Sorry, just give me a minute. I need to call someone to help me get this fan before I roast here. All right, so these are the lines along which we raise our children and along which we'll help the parents that we work with raise their children. Now we're going to be looking at 4 of these lines, okay? We're going to be looking at 4 of these lines along which we raise children, and we, advise, or we, encourage parents to also look at in raising their children if you are going to be proactive as a parent, and if you have purpose and your child living life to their best pretend, I mean, in their life, along in their best potential, living their best life, basically, along which God has, destined them to live. Sorry, just give me a minute. This is getting me very uncomfortable. Uh, Sorry, 1 second, please. All right then. So now I'm going to be looking. Well, I said we're going to be looking at four of these areas. Right now, we're looking at these four areas not because these are the most important areas. We're looking at these four areas because these are the most neglected areas. Okay, in raising our children, we tend to focus. I mean, if I ask you, by the time I have a conversation with you as a parent, will realize that you raise your children along some of these lines, right? But what we have found out over the years is that parents tend to neglect some areas, right? That they can, I mean, some of these areas, and then they focus on only a few of these areas. So I am very sure there is none of us here that does not focus on raising their children to be academically sound. So we all focus on raising children who are academically sound, and that is a good thing. We also raise children, or we also focus on raising children along spiritual lines. So kingdom life is a sure thing. A lot of us, especially in this part of the world, we are very religious people. So yes, we teach our children about God. We teach our children about our faith. We take them to church and all, or take them to mosque or wherever we go to. So we teach them, or we raise them along those lines, which is also a great thing, hoping that, we're doing it in a way that we help them build or personal relationships with God, right? Another line that we don't, make the mistake, or that we tend to do good well at is Another line that we tend to do well at is habit training. All right. So a lot of times, some of us raise our children. We teach them certain habits. We teach them, make your bed, and all of that. However, it's very important. I mean, when you introduce this aspect, habit training to your children is very, very key. And how consistent you are, about this one is very, very important. But I am not going to be focusing on this today. Okay, so we're just going to leave habit training out today. Another one that we tend to focus on is self-management. We teach our children to manage themselves. You know how to wash your clothes, you know how to make your bed, you know how to wash your underwears and all of that. Even though sometimes we struggle with that, but hey, at least a lot of us know that we should do this, and we tend to do it somehow. All right. So the four aspects that I will be focusing for this session, or financial education, lifelong learning, talents and interests, and then leadership. We also raise our children, and we teach the parents that we work with, how they can raise their children along leadership line also. Very, very key. And these are some, as I said, these areas are the areas that we tend to neglect a lot. For you to be a proactive parent, you must recognize that your child is an autonomy. I said that in another way. You must recognize that your child is an individual, meaning that your child has a life outside of you. Your child has a life after your home. Your home is only a training ground, and your child would eventually have to step into the world, or you would eventually have to launch your child into the world for your child to navigate the world on their own. Sorry about, that drag at the beginning. I was getting too hot. So, hey, I'm good now. All right. So, as a proactive parent, for you to be a proactive parent, you must recognize this, that your child is going to be launched out at some point. You must recognize that there are seasons. I said that. You must recognize that there are seasons. So you must know, when is the dependency phase? When is the phase of pre-launching? When is the phase where I have to launch them eventually? And how do I let go and let them champion their life afterwards? Some of the problems that we have as parents is we do not know, we do not do seasons, we do not understand seasons, and you cannot be a proactive parent if you do not understand seasons, because what will happen is seasons will be overlapping in the life of your children or in your parenting, such that your children do not learn how to navigate, or you do not teach your children the skills that they need to navigate per time. So per time, your children are struggling. So yes, a proactive parent understands the season. He knows when to teach skills. He knows when to introduce skills. He knows when to pre-launch the child. He knows when to launch the child, and he knows when to step back and let the child champion their own life. All right. How do we do this financially, or how do we do this in the area of financial education? All right, so the other time, just last month, the whole of July, we spent the whole of July at the academy talking about financial literacy for children, financial confidence parents, and all of that. Now, in that program, or during the course of that month, we taught parents over and over again. We had all kinds of, we had all kinds of courses, and all kinds of master classes, and all kinds of free products and all of that, just because we wanted to grind this part of parenting in, because we know how important it is. We all send our children to school. We send our children to school, and then when you ask the average parent, he will tell you, oh, I want them to have a good life. I want to give them a good education so that they can have a good life and all of that. Now go closer and ask this parent, what do you mean by, you want them to have a good life and all of that? Oh, you want them to have a good job. You want them to be able to take care of themselves and their family, have good homes, have cars, and all of that and all of that. This is what the average parent says to you. Now, when you say to the average parent, your child needs financial education, they begin to ask you, are they not too young? Let them focus on their school. Let them focus on their schoolwork and all of that. So I ask them, all right, so this schoolwork that you're asking them to focus on, to what end is the schoolwork? So that what will happen eventually when they are, so I asked them, how long should we leave them to finish focus? Just leave them, at least let them finish secondary school and finish university. So I asked them, on the average, when does the child finish university? At what, 23, 24, 25? So we leave this child without any sound financial education or sound financial knowledge, at least deep insight, right? Till the child is 25. And then the child is 25, then what? Then the child begins to struggle, begins to look for what job to get to and all of that. So yes, parents, there is a need for your children to get financial knowledge, or at least for your children to have the basics right from day one, right from the cradle. Okay? Right from the cradle, your children need to start building basic skills that will help them, basic financial skills. Something as simple as teaching your children to pack their food after they are done eating and put what is left in the fridge so that they can eat it the next day is basic financial knowledge. Because hey, we all know that, right? Financially successful people or wealthy people are frugal people. They are not wasteful people. Even if your child has to pack it and put it in the fridge, warm it and give it to the dog, it is something, rather than for your child to eat their food and pack it and throw in the trash every time. Simple things like having your children turn off the light, switch off the light when they step out, turn off the lights, switch off the light, when they step out of the room. All right, simple things like, hey, turn off the light switch is basic financial knowledge. All right, teaching your children simple things as they grow older. So I said you need to recognize the seasons. By the time your child is about 6 years old, you should start asking them questions like, hey, sweetie, what do you know? What do you enjoy doing? What do you like doing? All right, and by the time you find out what your children love doing, simple things like creating platforms for them where they can begin to express themselves and give out value to other people. These are basic financial knowledge that you need to start teaching your children. Okay, when your children begin to give out value, things as simple as when they begin to give out value, being able to turn those values into services and products that they can give out to people who need those services. Teaching your children to look around them, to solve problems around them, to look around them to see problems or the things that people need around them, and then having these children create things that can be solutions to those problems or to those things that people need. These are simple financial knowledge, and the moment they can do this and begin to offer these things of value to people, and people appreciate these things, it means that it is time to package them into services and products that your children can give out. And hey, when you give out value, when you give out value that people need, people are willing to pay for those values. When your children are raised this way, when you raise your children with this kind of templates, when you're able to create the right financial blueprints for your child, you will realize that you are raising a child with the right financial mindset, the right financial knowledge, and it is easy for this kind of child to make, manage, and multiply wealth, because right from the cradle, you have raised them with sound financial knowledge and financial education. You have actually allowed them build financial muscles. This is what proactive parents do. Okay, so when our son was about 6 years old, he came back home, and he came back home with some money from school, and he decided to start a juice business. It was a project from school. Okay, so he decided to start something, and we didn't know what to start. So we started thinking of the problems around him that he could solve with just 500 naira that he was giving, for that project. So we thought, and at that time, the only thing he could think of was he goes to play football, and the kids always want something cold to drink. Hey, so we decided to do juice. So he started selling juice to those people. This was him trying to create a solution for a problem around him. And so he did that. When he became 11 years old, we thought, okay, do you still, he continued with the juice anyway, and he's been doing that for like 4 years. All right. When he became 11, he had gained a lot of skills in public speaking. He had gained a lot of skills in public speaking. He had become some sort of an orator. He had become a TEDx speaker. He had done his first TEDx speech. Okay. He had spoken at the TEDx platform at the time, and in his school, he was already, huge when it comes to, presentations and all of that, being the one who does a lot of presentations and things like that. So he was already building stamina in this area. All right. And when he became 11, we had moved to the next phase in his life. Remember, I said, as a proactive parent, you must understand seasons. All right. So at this point, he's already a preteen. Okay. And so when he turned 11, we had a conversation. At this point, you're going to be 12 soon. You need to consolidate. We need you to stay in one place. What is your thing? What is your thing that you know that you can do, that is you, and has nothing to do with mommy or daddy? And then he said it has to be something that will allow me impact people, okay? Impacts people through leadership and all of that, and then we started thinking and we came up with something else. I will come to that later. All right. So basically, when you find that your children have certain skills, when you find that your children have certain interests, when you find out that your children have reached a stage in their lives, you need to start asking them questions. You need to start, helping them think outside the box. And this is what you do only if you are a proactive parent. We are not saying force them into anything. We're saying begin to ask questions that will make them start thinking outside the box. When you are able to do this as a parent, you will find that your children will start thinking outside the box early. Very, very key that you help your children develop financial muscles. Okay. The next one is lifelong learning. Lifelong learning is what every parent owes their child. It is a parenting advantage. Okay, if you teach your children to be lifelong learners, if you're able to raise children who are lifelong learners, I mean, that is one of the best things that you can do to your child. That is one of the most important advantage that you can give to your child, making them to be people who love and appreciate learning. How do you introduce learning, or how do you help your child become a lifelong learner? This also begins from the cradle. Okay, a proactive parent understands seasons. Okay, a proactive parent does not sit down and say, "Oh, he's just a child. What does he know? Please, oh, just leave him alone. He's just a child." No, a proactive parent understands that the first 5 years of a child's life are the point of rapid brain development. He understands that this is the planting season, or this is the sowing season, the season where you begin to program your child. Okay, proactive parents understands this, and so does not waste time right from when the child is an infant. How do you make children lifelong learners? It's a kind of stimulation that goes up in your environment, the kind of stimulation that you create in your environment. How have you stimulated your child, or how are you stimulating your child? I'm sure we've had educators. I see we've had educators who have come in here. I'm sure so we've heard about, the need for us to start early and create stimulation in our home. How is your room? I mean, how is your home structured? Is your home structured for learning? If I walk into your space, what is the ambience like? If I walk into your home, what is the ambience like? If I step into your home, would I want to learn? Would I want to pick a book and read? Would I want to create? Would I see things around that will point me to learning? Or what do I see? Is the setting of your home for entertainment? Is all that is within your home entertainment? How conducive is your environment? How stable is your environment? What's the relationship between the people in that environment? What kind of parenting style goes on in that environment? What energy can we feel when you walk into that environment? This is how your child is stimulated, or is being stimulated right from the cradle, right from age 0. That's what I'm saying. Every time I say the cradle, I'm talking of right from age 0. Okay, it is important, if you want to raise a child who is a lifelong learner, it is important that your environment is highly stimulated. Your children need to start hearing you read to them. When your children hear your voice, what are they hearing? Are they hearing you shouting at Yabo, the cook? Are they hearing you screaming at the all your domestic staff? Is that how they hear your voice? When they hear your voice in the morning, when they hear your voice in the afternoon, when they hear your voice in the evening, what energy does that voice, does your voice carry? Is your voice the calm, soothing voice to your child? Or is it the voice that screams and shouts when the child is having a tantrum? Is it the voice that screams and shouts when the child is hungry and is crying? Is it the voice that is directing the child and helping the child learn to regulate? This is how you raise children who are lifelong learners, by creating the right environment in your home, a stable environment in your home. As your child is growing, what resources do you have in that space that will help the child create and help the child explore? Children learn through exploration. Children learn by creating. We were born to create. We were born to create. To create. Go ye forth, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it. Basically, so if you are not raising children who can go forth, multiply, fill the earth, subdue it, conquer it, explore it, understand it, if you are shouting every time your children lift a single thing, drop that thing, they lift, drop that remote, what is wrong with you? You are stifling that child. If you are not allowing your children play, you are stifling those children. If you are one of those Y2K parents or 2021, 21st century parents, that your children, the only time your children move is when they are in a car. If you are that, you are destroying that child. You are not being proactive as a parent. Okay, a proactive parent is a parent that understands that Children need to be lifelong learners for them to navigate the world and for them to excel in the 21st century. And to do that, you need to raise them with the right foundation, a foundation that is a foundation that is based on, that is highly stimulating, basically, and all of that. All right. By the time your child can move around, is your child allowed to explore? Is your child allowed to exercise and to build their muscles? Are your children allowed to explore? Are your children allowed to create? Are your children allowed to use their hands? Are your children allowed to engage and to engage with things in their environment? Okay, Mary Montessori and all of the founders, educational founders of education actually say children need to grow in natural environment. They need to grow in natural environment. They need to interact with nature. So if you are keeping your children every time in your home, you go to school in a car, they come back in a car, the instruction is that they cannot go outside to play. They are in your home, one lesson teacher after the next lesson teacher, music class, this one, that one. Your children do not play. Just know it today that you are stifling your child's growth and your child's development, and you are going to stop your child from being a lifelong learner. We all know that the world as it is right now and the way the world is going is such that we do not even understand what the next 10, 20, 30 years would be. All right. So we do not know what to raise our children for, or we do not know what to prepare our children for. So what we can do for our children is to make them lifelong learners, make them people who are willing to learn. So when you are able to raise a child to be a willing learner, it means that whatever the world throws at him, or whatever wonder the world brings after 10, 15, or 20 years, because your child is highly stimulated, because the brain is a stimulated ground, because the brain has been nurtured and prepared for learning, whatever comes, your child is able to connect, learn, and then will be able to adapt, basically. And this is what it is, to raise children who are lifelong learners, children who are willing to read at all times. How much is your child reading? Are you reading to your toddler? Are you reading aloud? Reading aloud is such an amazing, a wonderful, wonderful skill that you want to harness, right? Sometimes you tell parents, buy books and read to your children. He doesn't know how to read yet. No, he doesn't have to know how to read. You know how to read. You are the one that needs to read. Start reading from your child from the day they are born. Yes, help your children enjoy books and love books. Make sure that books or something that are never scarce in your home, if your intention is to raise children who are lifelong learners. How much time do I have more? I think I still have some time. All right. The next one is talent and interest. Okay, talent and interest. Very, very key. Your child's purpose is a combination of a lot of things. So I say to the parents that I work with, I say to my children, and I remind myself, how you look, who you are, your temperament, your physical makeup, all right, where you find yourself, the talents that you have, everything about you was carefully, right, was carefully put together, was carefully created by God to serve your purpose. So everything that you are a girl, that you are a boy, that you are tall, that you are short, that you are from Africa, that you're Caucasian, all of that, the way your hair is, everything about you was formed for your purpose. So it is everything that is within you. It is everything that's within you that will flow for you to live or for you to find and live that purpose that you were created for. Okay? Out of your belly shall flow springs, the rivers of living waters. That is where your purpose is. What is flowing from within? What you are, who who you are, all of it put together is what will make up, that person that you are created to be. This is how you are going to live your full potential. This is how you are going to live that wholesome life that we are talking about. So as a parent, you need to be proactive about your child's purpose. You need to make your children understand that they were created for something. They were created for a purpose, and that purpose precedes them. That purpose is bigger than them. That purpose is bigger than you. That purpose was predestined by God. So your children need to look inside. God has deposited everything within them for them to live that purpose. So they need to look inward so that they can flow, or it can flow from within them, the rivers of living waters. All right. So if your children do not like who they are, if your children do not recognize who they are, if your children are not comfortable in their skin, if your children do not get affirmed by you, if your children are not told who they are by you, if you are that parent that runs your mouth anyhow, and every time you are calling your children names that are not, you are going to be stifling that purpose. Proactive parents understand their children's purpose. They understand that they are a part, right? They understand that they are vehicles, right? As a parent, you are a vehicle that will help your child to find and to live that purpose for which they were created. All right. So every time you see a skill, every time you see a talent, every time you see something that your child does and your child is happy doing, it is your role as a parent to do this and look closely. It is your role to be present enough to recognize those things that your children may not be able to recognize at the time because of the various noise around them. It is your role as a parent to recognize these things and begin to point your children towards those things. It is your role as a parent to recognize these things and begin to create an environment that will allow your children thrive in these things that they are good at, or these things they love. It is your role as a parent to help your children find platforms where they can gain expression, right, with these things that they are good at. It is your role as a parent to provide the resources, right, to provide the resources needed for your children to hone the skills and hone the talents that they have. Very, very key. This is being proactive as a parent. When our son was about 6 years old, all right, I went to his school once and he was supposed to have a presentation in school. It was a big, it was Christmas and it was big, it was huge in his school. So everybody had to do a presentation. They sent us, what we're supposed to buy for the presentation and all of that, and all we did. I mean, I was working full time at that time. So after work, I had to rush out, get this, get that, and all of that. I came home, we got dressed, and then we went to school. We got to school, presentation after. I talked about this in my book, Mentor Parent, right? I talked a bit about this in my book, Mentor Parent, right? So presentation after presentation, other kids came, they had fun and all of that. My son did not show up. We were there from from about, I can't remember when we went, probably around 4 or thereabout, all the way till almost 8 p.m. And my son did not show up in a single presentation. When it was time to go home, Daddy was not in town at the time. His father was in town. It was just me. When it was time to go home, I was looking for him, and he wasn't even where his other classmates were supposed to be. He was on the playground swinging away. Okay. So, of course, they got him, and then we left. We went home and all that. I didn't say much that day. I let him be till the next day. And so on the next day, I am like, okay, sweetie, I noticed you didn't show up in any of the presentations. What happened? And he said to me, I don't like standing in front of people. I don't like to dance. I don't like standing in front of people. I don't like people looking at me and all of that. I am shy. Shy. At this point, he was 6 thereabouts, and I know my son. I mean, I know my son. There's a child you have, and this one is really shy. This one, this. I know that there was nothing like that. I knew there was nothing like that, and I started wondering what can it be. And of course, I knew we needed to help him. I spoke with his dad about it when he came back, and all of that, and we just decided we needed to help him. There was something that was there. Okay, when I went on that journey, I came to the journey of trying to figure out what it was. I would come to realize a couple of things. Basically, one of them being our parenting style. So he was our first child, and we had him alone for a long time. You know, and all of that. And at that time, I wasn't, yes, I knew a couple of things about parenting, and I was doing, great in certain areas. But one area we had not gotten right at the time was discipline. It was discipline and all of that. So there was that tendency for me to yell a lot and all of that, and daddy would spank a lot and all that. And because he was a pretty active child. He was a very active child, and he was all over the place, boom, 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 everywhere, talking, shouting, screaming, laughing, and all of that. So there are times you want to rest. There are times you want to do something different. There are times, and so he got into trouble a lot, and there was a lot of shutting him down, yelling and spanking and all of that. So I realized this was taking away his spontaneity. It was taking a lot away from him, and somehow he was beginning to get scared. This is one child with two adults who were, maybe I wasn't as, volatile as daddy was, but hey, somewhere there were the days that I would shout down the house, and all of that. So I realized that without knowing it, we were actually stifling the boisterous nature of our child, and we're killing some of his natural instincts and all of that. Now, you may take these things for granted. You may not know what these things are about, and you will not know how some of these things will manifest in your child, or how your child will manifest some of these things. But hey, because at that time I had some time, I had started working with children, I started attending trainings, right? I started attending training. I had started paying for trainings to go with the teachers in the school where I was a school manager. I was beginning to understand certain things. And that was the only reason I could look closely. That was the only reason why I had the insight. As I said, or as scripture says, it takes a person with deep insight to draw out the purpose of a man's heart. It is so easy. It is with your child. All right. So because I had some insight, I had some knowledge. I had some knowledge at the time. I was able to look at this and look at that, and I could see where the problem was, or where the root cause was. And so we sprang into action and started working and helping our child. Okay. We started doing that, and that's how gradually he would go to school, and then he would come back. It was BlackBerry at the time, so I put on my BlackBerry phone and I'll tell him, so teach me what you did in school today. He likes pictures, he likes to watch videos. At that time he likes to watch videos and all of that. So he would stand and he would give me the presentation. I would do it, and then he would come, he would look at it, he would be excited, and I'm like, let's send it to daddy. We'll send it to daddy. Daddy will send his remark, oh, amazing, fantastic, and all of that. So it became a routine. Every day we come back from school, whether we're in the kitchen cooking or whatever, he would, so it meant that even in school he paid more attention, because he knew that he had to come back home and talk to mommy about it and all of that. So we had a deal that he had to volunteer, and he had to be in every presentation in school, provided he was allowed to be a part of it. So gradually, we started doing this. We started working. All right. And so when he was 7 years old, I enrolled him into a program with a mentor. So he had his first mentor when he was 7. All right. What was the goal of this mentorship program? I needed him to be able to speak with other adults besides me. I needed him to be able to, communicate with other adults apart from me. And I promise you, this was like one of the best parenting decisions that I made at the time. All right. So of course, he started having sessions with his mentor. She was in Jos at the time. So it was, I can't remember that time, which of it. I just know that it was on the phone, whether it was WhatsApp, I can't remember, whether it was BlackBerry, I can't remember. All right, he's 12 right now. So you can count back and help me figure out which one it is. I can't remember. So he's 12 right now. So this was about 5 years ago, thereabout. Right. So he will have sessions with his mentor. I will be in the kitchen listening to them. They will read books. He started reading non-fiction books. The first book he read was 17 Secrets of High Flying Students. They read that book together. They will have conversation. I will hear my son having a conversation. I mean, having conversations with this lady, and I'm like, whoa, he can do this. He can talk this much. And so we continued like that. By the time he was 8 or 9, was that 8? Okay, yeah. Through his mentor, he was able to start a YouTube channel. They had, we asked him a couple of questions, financial questions, coming from a financial background. What can you do, to impact the world? Because we're big on impact also, okay, as one of our values. So we're big on impact. What can you do to impact the world and all of that? And it's that he loves science. How can we use science to impact the world? We started thinking, I'll teach my friends in school. Amazing. He started teaching his friends in school. And with his mentor, they were able to come up with, how about a YouTube channel? I didn't know much about YouTube at that time. I didn't know that I could use YouTube as a platform. But hey, because he had a mentor, we had another person, working with him, with us, with him, and then of course the school. So the more people you have supporting your children, the more opportunities, right? The more opportunities and platforms you have open to them, basically. And so we started a YouTube channel. Come see my science, my world. You can still check it out. It is right there. From that, at some point, I was in a training one day, and there was this lady that came for that training. She's a public speaking guru and all of that. After that training, while we're having that training, what came to my mind was my son. I need to up this skill. I need to help him with this skill that he's doing so well with. Of course, so I contacted the lady afterwards and enrolled him into a public speaking academy. All right, so he went on and did that, and as we speak today, he's won 2 international public speaking competitions, and he has had his first TEDx talk. He has spoken on a TEDx platform, and he's doing amazingly, with that skill. When he turned 12 years, we asked him, okay, you're 12 now. What would you like to do? What would you like to consolidate? You do a number of things. You run the business. You do public speaking. You do public speaking. You run the business. You do other small things here and there. What would you like to consolidate and focus on? And he said, something, I would like to focus on leadership and all that. Since I work with other people well, and, I have all that leadership skill, I would want to take it to the next level. And so we started the platform, the Mastermind Circle. So the Mastermind Circle, at the beginning, they said I run a pair accountability program with my son. We started running that program in January of this year. And as we speak, he has over 30 children from 5-6 different countries who are partners in the Mastermind program. It's an accountability program for children between ages 7 and 13, where we teach them to create their goals. We teach them to create plans for those goals. We hold them accountable such that they're doing something, pertaining their goals every day. They send in daily reports for their goals. They meet twice in a month. They have guest appearances where coaches come and train them. They have a study group where when you have a problem with your schoolwork, you bring it to the study group and they study together, and all. It's been such a blessing to the parents and the children in that group. A lot of parents have testified, how their children can now direct themselves, how they don't have to chase their children to do their chores, to say their prayers, to do their affirmation, to read for an hour every day, to read books for leisure and all of that, just because the children are in the mastermind and they know they will have to report what they did at the end of the day. So because of that, the children are directing themselves, basically. Now he can do all of this because somebody decided to be proactive, because some people decided to be proactive, understanding that he is an individual and he will be autonomous someday and will have to navigate the world on his own. All right, the last one I'm going to be talking about is leadership. I've spoken a bit about leadership already. All right, so at the point our son started talking and started participating in school programs, school activities, and all of that, it was clear that for him, he wasn't the biggest sports guy. Okay, so he loves to play football. So we allow him play football. We even enrolled him into football academy. But it didn't take long for us to understand that this is going to be, leisure for him. This is going to be something that he just loves to do, enjoys doing, and he can unwind with this, right? Because he football was not one of his biggest or strongest points. We recognize this after we have created the platform. He talks a lot about football. He loves football. We love football. We're football lovers in my home and all of that. He has his club. I have my club. That is Goy's club. We watch football matches together and all of that. Now he wanted football, and we enrolled him into a football academy, right? Because we are here to give him the parenting advantage. We are here to give him the platforms that he needs to live that fulfilling life. Remember, a part of purpose is that the person is able to live a fulfilled, exuberant life. The person enjoys what the person is doing, right? That is a part of purpose. Whatever it is that is your purpose is something that you love to do. It is your natural place. It is your natural thing, right? It is your easy, basically. Your purpose is going to come from your easy. Your purpose is going to come from your natural place. Your purpose is going to come from something that you do stresslessly, okay? If there's any word like that, all right? And the second component of purpose is that you're going to be able to impact the world with all of these, all right? So your purpose doesn't have to be one thing. It could be one, two, three things, but whatever it is, it's something that you do from a place of joy, from a place of happiness, from a place of peace. It is exuberant, it is joyful, and that you are able to bless the world and impact other people through that purpose. All right. So if you are not looking at the things that your children love to do, if you cannot see what they enjoy doing, you may be stifling their purpose. So yes, it is our responsibility, and so we make ourselves available to give that platform, to give that advantage, to create the environment, to create the platform, or lead them to those platforms, give them the ability to hone those skills, and then introduce them to those places or those environments where they can thrive. So yes, we took him to football, and then he did it, and with time he realized that even though he enjoys playing football, it wasn't his happiest place, it wasn't his best place, and all of that, and it wasn't his easy. So yes, he still plays football, he still enjoys football, but hey, that's not where you can find him lost in, you know what I'm talking about. All right, so but then again, we realized he loved the public. He could sit down and be in a section, right? He could be in a session for hours, right? He could talk for hours. He could put his thoughts together. When he puts his thoughts together and he speaks, he doesn't sound like the average child when he puts his thoughts together, right? To speak and all of that. So he had something there, something huge that was there. And so it was something that we were glad to create opportunities and platform for him, in that area. Right. In his business also, he could put himself into it and all of that. So we're able to create these platforms for him. All right. So when we noticed it was like that, so in school, when they needed someone to be the orator, they needed someone to be the one who does the narration the narrating when they have dramas and all of that, it was always him. When they needed someone, so a little wonder he became the head boy and all of that. So he started honing those skills. And so what did we do? We helped him to start volunteering. Okay, it's one of our family values to be of service to your community. So when I go to do the things that I do of service to my community, I go with the children. All right, we do a bit of philanthropic work right in my home. home. And then when we do this, I go with him. I mean, I go with the children to do this with me and all of that. So we go to do some of this philanthropic work. I mean, every Children's Day, in the last 2 years, every Children's Day, we go out to orphanages and to schools. We donate books in partnership with other people. We donate books, we take goodies to the children. No matter what the kids are doing in school, the school knows that I will take permission for them to go with me on these days. All right. So in the first year, he actually contributed from his juice company. He actually contributed 50 bottles of his juice, as part of the outreach. He gave us that for free, contributed that to the outreach in the first year. In the second year, we were donating his book. So he wrote a book when he was 10 years. When he was 11, he started writing when he was 10 and then published the book when he was 11. All right. So as part of the last year, it was his book that we gave out to the schools. All right. So we had donors who paid for some of the books for us to donate. But as a person, he also donated a number of copies, 50 copies or thereabout, right, to this cause and all of that. And he's done a lot of other things in the area of leadership and all of that, right? Because we are big on leadership, and he's got some skills there. He's had to take leadership positions as class monitor. He's had to take leadership positions as the head boy of his school. He's done other leadership, things. And what are we doing right now? We're looking for platforms, right, where he can hone his skills in leadership. He has his leadership skills. We're looking for platforms. We're connecting him to people, right? People who are assertive, people who are doing great things, in the area of leading other people. We're connecting him to this kind of people. In the mastermind, he's rubbing minds with children of like minds, all of them developing and building their leadership skills together. So I want to ask you again, as a parent in the 21st century, what parenting advantages are you giving your children? What areas are you parenting your children along? And most importantly, how proactive are you when it comes to raising your Gen Z and your Alpha generation children? Thank you very much. I like to keep to time, and I'm 1 minute or 2 minutes right on time. So Vivian, are you there? So thank you very much. If you have questions, I will be glad to take your questions. I hope that you got value for this, from this session. If you do, let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions, I will be glad to take your questions. Vivian, coach, are you there? All right. Hey, Vivian. I think she's having a bit of network issues.
Okay, yes. Good.
Okay.
Thank you so much. People are already, in fact, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you.
Yes, people said, I got value, I got value. This is a wonderful session. This is
Mhm.
explosive. People are raving you on the comments, but let me bring up the question so you can
Okay.
also answer the question. If you can see your screen, the question is on the screen.
Okay, how do you handle a child with low self-esteem? Okay, now self-esteem, right? It's whether we like it or not, right? So self-esteem is something that is first developed from home, right? It is the home that helps the child, or it is the home that builds the child esteem first. You heard me talking about at the beginning how when our son had his, when we had those challenges at the beginning, we had to stop and look at, the foundation. We had to look at the root cause, and we realized that a lot of the shutting him down and stopping him, from exploring, from doing the things, he wanted to, the things that came, easily, the things that were like instincts. Yes, the things that were, intuition, we're shutting all of that down. And what that does is the child begins to withdraw. It's a survival kind of instinct for the child. It's a way to survive, basically, that the child, it's the brain, it's the amygdala, that part of the brain that is responsible for the flight, the freeze, and fight back kind of emotions. So that part of the brain that is responsible for that is what helps the child preserve themselves. When as parents we get the child to that point where the child is now afraid because of the constant hitting, beating, yelling, and all of that. So the child does this, the child kind of withdraws to survive, basically. So that's where low self-esteem begins to come from. So now if you're able to look at that, go back and look at what could possibly your child be your child's case. It could be home. It could be their teachers, the people, the primary caregivers, the people who were present in the child's life early, most times between 0 and 5, 0 and 7. That's where it comes from a lot of the times. So before you can help this child, you have to be able to trace where this is coming from. If you're able to see it, then you know how to walk back from where you are, basically. So, but most importantly, you will have to help that child build that esteem through how you see the child, and you make the child know and see that you see them. So you need to affirm your child. You have to help that child. You have to start affirming that child. You have to start telling that child about who they are, what they can do, what they are capable of. You need to tell the child, who God says they are. That's some of the ways that you're going to help them build their self-esteem. Then you're going to have to help your child begin to do things on their own. We don't know this, but the ability to create boosts your esteem. Okay, when you are able to create, it actually boosts your esteem. I mean, think about it today that you are a fashion designer or tailor or something like that, and you create this, dress, or you create this kaftan or something like that, and somehow that kaftan finds its way to the hands of, say, a president or someone that is iconic, and you see that person wear that thing. I mean, imagine, who is very fashionista. Okay, so imagine the kind of confidence that someone like May Atafo gets just because Ebuka wears his creation, and you hear how people rave and rave and rave about the fashionista that Ebuka is. So you can imagine the confidence that that brand gets from just that's raving, that people rave about how good it is. It could just be the person that is wearing it though, but who cares? It is my creation that the person is wearing. So it's the same thing. What are you clothing your child in? What kind of confidence are you clothing in your child in? It is that confidence that you clothe your child in that will help the child build their self-esteem, basically. All right, I hope that answered your question. Financial education, lifelong learning, and I didn't get the other two. Okay, so there are 8 of them actually. I talked about financial education, lifelong learning. I talked about leadership. And where's my book? I talked about leadership, financial education, lifelong learning, and talents, skills and talents, right? Their skills and their talents. All right. Yeah. Lifelong learning, talents, and interest, leadership, and then financial education. Yes. Any other questions?
I can't see any yet, but I'm just seeing them raving you. Okay, someone said, how at what age do we start giving children financial education?
From
How
age
do I
zero.
okay,
Zero.
how do I
Zero.
get okay, maybe Coach Marybeth, I think you just have to share your details so that we can share. So the last question the person dropped on that financial education is, how do I get to put my 0 to 6 to learn this
Okay,
with
so we
your
have a course that
with
we
your
we have a
person?
course that we ran last year, last month, right? We have a course. It's called Raising Financially Smart Kids, right? It was a course we ran last month. So in that course, basically, we have a blueprint. That blueprint is what I have even used for my children. I have a 7-year-old that I am working with that blueprint to also help her. So what her brother was doing at age 7 is what she's doing right now that she's about age 7. The blueprint basically goes through what you can do with your child from age 0 to they're about 18. Basically, what did you do at every phase? Remember, I said being proactive is understanding the season of your child's life. All right. So you have all that. At some point, you will have to teach your children savings. At some point, you will have to teach them savings in the real sense, not just having a colo or having a piggy bank and putting all their money. Even the piggy bank has a system. It's not just to pack all your money and put in one piggy bank. Even the piggy bank has a system that is realistic, and in tandem with reality. So even the piggyback system we use for our children is actually different. So yes, there's financial training for children from 0 up to the age of 13 or 18 rather, throughout the dependency phase of their lives. All right. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and on Facebook. My group is Parenting Through Mentorship. Parenting Through Mentorship Community on Facebook. You will find us there. My personal what do you call it? My profile, Facebook is just Marybeth Achor Chima. Marybeth Achor is spelled Achor. So it's Marybeth Achor Chima, compound name Achor Chima, basically. That and then on Instagram it's marybeth.ptn. All right, marybeth.ptn. Basically, you can follow us on all of
Thank
those
you so
platforms.
much, sis.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
you. It's
All right. Thank you, Vivian,
every
and
comment
well
here
done.
is
Well
raving at
done.
you. This is so explosive. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much, Ma. Well done for what you're doing. I
It's
mean, it's
just
not easy.
thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are glad to have you. Thank you for doing this. We will share the handle later so that people who are asking already on the financial education can also be part of the
All right,
program.
I
I
can
will,
just
I
type
will
it. Let me
share
just.
your personal handle later.
Okay.
I don't know
Very much.
if it's something you can share on the screen so that it can also scroll. That will be
Okay, I'm
fine.
typing it
If
to
it's not,
you.
then we'll
Let
share
me type it.
later.
I'm typing it. I'm sharing it with you.
Can you hear me?
Parenting. Yes, I'm typing it now.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can. I think it's your
Okay,
network.
can you still hear me?
Yes, man, I
Yeah.
can. Mhm.
You have another question. You have an yes, questions are still dropping. Your questions
Okay.
are still dropping while others are still raving at you, thanking you. This is so
Um,
explosive and beautiful. But then let me send the question so you can also answer her quickly.
Okay, so I sent you on the private chat. You can check the private chat for my handle there.
Okay, okay, okay. That's fine.
Instagram.
The next question is on the screen so you can also answer her.
Okay, my daughter is creative naturally and wants to explore, but is constantly doing it negatively. How do I go about it? What do you mean by negatively? I mean, what does it mean? I mean, what do you mean by negatively? How old is your child? First of all, is how old is your child and what is negatively? Now, for kids who are, say, 0 to 5, so your 0 to 5 is still a toddler, even your 0 to 6-year-old is still a toddler, isn't it? And at this point, where they are 0 to 6, the language, generally, the language of children, right? The language of children is play. What children know is play. Play, 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 play. That's what it is for children. So for your kid 0 to 6, he's exploring. And remember, he's trying to understand the world around him. So when he goes to your kitchen, she recently poisoned the fishes in the pond. Oh, okay. So that's another aspect, right? As much as we want our children to explore, as much as we want them to, be their authentic self, there's also the place of supervision. You can't leave children on their own without supervision. Yes, secure attachment is very important, that your children know that you trust them. But you still have toddlers, your children are still 0, under 7. They still need to be watched. So if this child was being watched by someone, the child will not go as far as poisoning the fish. Now the child is exploring. The child probably just wanted to see what that whatever he's pouring into the pond, he just wants to see what reaction that will create. He just wants to see. They say our children are natural inventors. They are natural scientists. They are natural inventors. Basically, they have all that instincts that scientists and creatives and innovators and inventors have. What happens is we kill them. We kill the instincts gradually over the years. So by the time they are 10, we have already killed the natural instincts through the many. No, stop, go away from there. Destruction, destructive, all of these things is what kills it. Now he just wanted, it's curiosity that led to that. He just needs to throw that bottle to see what the reaction will be. Will it break? Will it bounce? Will it jump? It is in these experiences that your child gets to understand the world around them. So you find that if you go back and look back, read and research these people who have created things, and these people who are innovators and what do you call them, innovators and all of that, you will realize that these are people that were left to explore. These are people that were allowed to explore, right from when they were very young. So yes, the child did not know he was going to poison the fishes. He just wanted to. He was just curious. He was just curious about what will happen. He was just trying to understand his environment. So yes, someone needs to constantly, support them. Someone needs to constantly watch them. Someone needs to supervise them. So even in all that they do, at least make sure that there's always someone supervising what they are doing, because we don't want them to self-destruct, and we won't want them to destroy, things like the fish, basically. All right. So yes, it's not negative. It's just the child, being instinctive and being really, exploring, basically. So what we need is someone to watch them and not us stopping him. He's 10 years old. Okay, so a 10-year-old is pretty old enough to start understanding some of these things. Now, the other thing is, do in your child trying to explore and all of that, does he have someone who tries to give him, extra knowledge and understanding? Because it's one thing for your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year old child to try to explore and all of that. When they explore, there has to be, a follow up. So that's why even in education, we say that the activities or the learning should be child led. Now, you should be the guardian, and then you should be the one who reinforces that learning. So, yes, the child guides you or directs you to what he wants to learn, or you see the child's curiosity. You're supposed to be there to, answer and fill in the gaps in those learning. So yes, for your 10-year-old, someone should have, been able to, help him understand what is safe for the fish and what isn't safe for the fish, especially because you know that he is, an explorative kind of person. He's probably a kinesthetic learner also, who wants to learn by doing and is constantly moving and all of that. So for those kind of children, you need to always, try and fill in the gaps in their learning, so that their learning can be, deeper and, have more insight. So he should understand at 10 what is damaging and what is not damaging. I said understanding the season, very, very key. Right, that's also hoping that the child doesn't have any learning challenges or anything like that. So you need to be sure of all of these things, because sometimes children who have some learning challenges or learn differently, as we like to put it, children who learn differently, sometimes they could be 15 and 16 and they still do some of those things. And because we don't understand, some of the things that they are dealing with, you may not understand why they're doing this. So if your child is overly, the way you're saying it, destructive way and all of that, you need to look closely, more closely, just to be sure, that you have all the information that you need to have about the child. All right then.
Thank you
Yes, Dee.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The questions are I can't see them again.
Okay.
Um, but we'll share the details on
All
the
right.
screen and then later so that parents can also join
Okay.
in the program for children.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so
That's
much for being.
fine.
Yeah, we are
All right. Thank
grateful.
you. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
All right.
So that is it for today. Woo! We are so grateful that all of you joined on day 3, and this is the end of it. God bless you for being here. The questions that came up of talking about self-esteem, if you have the book Life Begins from Childhood, I shared on 10, 11 different things that we need to develop for our children, and these are foundations. And self-esteem is one of them. And it has a very huge explanation on how to develop healthy self-esteem for children, because that's where it all starts for every child. Everything we see that happens in adulthood is actually coming from lack of self-esteem. The dysfunctionality that we see in adulthood comes from lack of self-esteem and lack of confidence, basically. And that's why in our program, the first thing we do is to discover ourselves as parents and help discover our children. In the Build Your Home Tribe, the first thing we do is, after creating our values, then the second module is on self-discovery. That's our core in the academy. So self-esteem is a priority for every child. Lack of self-esteem is what makes children do all sorts of behavior, and even adults who involve on all manner of ill vices is actually self-esteem issues. So you need to get that book, Life Begins from Childhood. If you don't have it and you're on the stream, even if you're watching replay, send a chat to the number on the screen. Life Begins from Childhood is across the country. You can get it everywhere in Nigeria now. So make sure you have that book. It's going to be your foundation. That's where you're supposed to start from. That's where you're supposed to start from. Reading the book Life Begins from Childhood is in fact, I don't know. Someone sent me a chat and said is an encyclopedia of parenting. Yes, everything you need to think of that we need to do with children between the 0 age to 12, it's in that book. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again in tomorrow's session by the grace of God. So do have an amazing night rest.